What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to be discussing the main villain of the new High Republic era of Star Wars, known as Marchion Ro, or Marchion Ro. I'm not really sure yet on how it's actually pronounced, and essentially just giving you guys an idea of who this guy is, what he's about, and what we know of him so far. Now, obviously, if you plan on reading the High Republic content that's coming out throughout the course of this year and onwards, then I definitely recommend clicking off this video right now, as we are going to be touching slightly on spoilers. There's not really too many story spoilers in here, but there are still a couple that you probably best to avoid. So if you're planning on reading it, then click off the video right now and come back when you are done. If, however, you're just interested in learning who Marchion Ro is and what he's about, then this is definitely the video for you. So without wasting any more time, we're going to jump right into it. So we first meet Marchion and the Nihil in general around a third of the way through Light of the Jedi, and at the start it's not very clear what his role is within the Nihil. All we know is that he is obviously a higher up within their ranks, and that he seems to be one of the main characters within this group known as the Nihil. The Nihil are essentially space Vikings in a way. They're a relatively large group of marauders or pirates, and at the start of the book they mostly just keep to the Outer Rim, plundering their way across a ton of different planets and essentially just taking whatever they want from regular civilians and then destroying what they don't want. Now, we learned pretty early on that they have this kind of pyramid scheme type situation going on, not quite the average type of pyramid scheme, but there's essentially a bunch of different ranks within the band of marauders, all named in relation to a storm, which is kind of like their theme or their branding in a way. Firstly, there are strikes who pretty much find other people to join the Nihil, and when those strikes get enough members underneath them, that strike then becomes a cloud. If that cloud makes a name for themselves, then they'll eventually move up to become a storm, which are, I guess, kind of like the leaders of each individual group, kind of like the captain of a squad or something like that. Now, above all of these ranks though, there is a higher rank known as a Tempest Runner. Each Tempest Runner runs their own Tempest, as the name suggests, and a Tempest is essentially just another word for like a battalion or a fleet or something. Each Tempest might contain, say, 1,000 Nihil warriors, with the Tempest Runner being their leader. There are 3 Tempests, meaning there are 3 Tempest Runners known as Kassav, Lourna Dee, and Pan Edia, and these 3 are pretty much at the head of the entire Nihil group, seen as the 3 communal leaders. However, there is one more at the top known as the Eye, short for the Eye of the Storm, and this is of course Marchion Ro. Now, him being at the top doesn't actually make him the leader of the Nihil, at least not at the start of the book anyway. He's essentially just like the pathfinder / strategist of the group, and he has a large say in what the group does. Now, the reason for him being a strategist is because he has an incredible understanding of hyperspace travel, which we actually learn a little bit more about later on. It turns out it's not quite actually him who is the one with all the knowledge. But as far as they know, he has a crazy understanding of hyperspace travel, to the point that the Nihil actually have the ability to travel through hyperspace in a way that we've never seen before in Star Wars, jumping from place A to place B without having to sort of set their course in the same way that we're used to. It's almost like they can hyperspace jump anywhere that they want at any given moment, or at least that's the impression that we're given in the book so far. It's obviously not fully fleshed out yet, since this is only the first entry into this new era. Now anyway, the 3 Tempest Runners and the Eye are all essentially a council who vote upon each decision. However, what makes Marchion seem as though he is somewhat at the top is that he actually gets 2 votes, so if the vote is a tie, he actually has the final say essentially. Therefore, he does actually have slightly more power than the 3 Tempest Runners, but it is made abundantly clear throughout the early stages of the book that despite all that, he is not the leader overall. Now, skipping ahead quite a while, and this is getting slightly into spoiler territory, by the end of the book, this is not exactly the case. Marchion turns out to have been playing the Nihil and the Jedi for fools throughout this entire book, setting in motion an elaborate plan in which he eliminates multiple Jedi, captures one of the main Jedi in Loden Greatstorm, sets the Jedi against the Nihil because of that, and then eliminates Kassav, who he's pretty much wanted dead for a long time, in a way that it actually makes it seem as though the Nihil are eliminated. To expand on that, he essentially sends Kassav and his entire Tempest, roughly 1,000 warriors, to their certain deaths while simultaneously killing many of the Republic and Jedi warriors, sacrificing those Nihil members to make it seem as though the Nihil have actually been wiped out, and therefore the Republic and the Jedi Order would leave them alone, assuming that they're gone. Throughout maybe 85% of the book, none of this is really made apparent to us, the reader, and so when it all comes to a conclusion at the end, it's obviously a pretty big shock and just shows how much of a mastermind that Marchion truly is, because in a way similar to Palpatine setting up the Clone Wars, although not quite on that same scale, he is essentially the puppet master behind all of the events in this book, all of which benefit himself and the Nihil. Now, on top of that, by eliminating Kassav and his Tempest and making Lourna Dee appear weak to her own Tempest, he essentially declares himself the leader of the Nihil moving moving forward, and strikes fear into those below him, such as Lorna Dee, who multiple times throughout the book pretty much mentioned that she thought he was a bit of a pushover. However, now she clearly fears him and does agree that he is the leader of the entire group, so you can see that he's quite clearly a very smart character, and in my opinion he really sets himself up for some awesome content moving forward. The Nile story in this book essentially ends with them deciding, or I guess technically Markian deciding, that they're going to rapidly expand their forces, recruit, pillage and plunder across the entire galaxy, and pretty much set themselves up to a point where they can try to eliminate the Jedi and the Republic as a whole, and live their lives in complete freedom, doing what they want when they want, not really wanting any large power, but purely just wanting their own freedom. With that being said, Markian does take a little bit of a turn at the end of the book, and it does seem that he may have some sort of different motives that he's hiding, so we'll have to see how that ends up going, but for now we can only really guess. Overall, I absolutely loved Markian as a character in this novel. I think the way that he essentially lurked around without seeming to be a threat and then quickly rose to power when he saw his chance, it was so well written by Charles Soule, and I'm definitely excited to see where it goes in the future. That is going to do it for this one though, guys. If you enjoyed the video, then be sure to leave a like down below, and if you are new, then consider subscribing to the channel with those notifications on. Thank you all so much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.
Crush them! Make them suffer!